We are here with Hansi Kürsch, lead singer and of the famous heavy metal band Bling Guardian. The German band had songs with a Middle-earth themes until they released an entire album based on J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion in 1998. That year, the band came to Brazil for the first time, right, Hans?
Yeah, that is correct.
1998.
Yes.
Oh,
For the first time for an entire tour. With the advent of Peter Jackson's film trilogy for The Lord of the Rings, the band became even better known in Brazilian lands. We are immensely grateful to Hans for making this interview available and to Whiplash website for facilitating this happy meeting.
Cesar is currently in Brazil while I'm in Portugal, and we serve as Tolkienist consultants in our respective countries.
Very cool.
Yeah, different time zones with the ocean apart.
Oh, yeah. But it's the same language.
The
That
same
helps.
language, that's it, yes.
With some accent, like USA and UK. We know
Yeah.
when is Portugal or Brazil, but we can understand each other.
I've been told
So-
that's the case.
Yeah, there are a few words that when Cesar speak, in Portugal, we understand better the Brazilians because they are like 20 times more than we are. We are just 10 million Portuguese, and there are more than 10 million people in São Paulo city. So
Yeah.
20
But-
million in
yeah.
São Paulo.
we understand the Brazilian people, but when we Portuguese say something that they don't understand, they are like, what? Is that a word? Is that even a word?
That's not a language.
That's not a
Yeah.
language. So
Please.
before first question, this is the first question. Before the Nightfall on Middle Earth, this album, I love it. I have it here in a CD.
So you do everything right.
Yeah. You before this album, you had songs about Tolkien's world, like Bird songs, The Lord of the Rings. How did the idea of creating a full album to narrate the Silmarillion story came about?
Well, we were known as a Tolkien support band before that, due to Majesty, Lord of the Rings, and the Bard song. And it had the stories of Tolkien had a very big impact on our music from the very first beginning, and we liked the combination. So when we started working on the music for Nightfall and Middle Earth, we just recognized, well, it's about time for a first concept album. I came up with 3 different concepts. One was about the Arthurian epic. Another one was about the Ring of Nibelungen, a German saga. And the third one was about the Silmarillion. And since I was mostly fascinated by the Silmarillion at that point, this is what had the biggest impact on the band members as well. So in a collective, we decided that the Silmarillion would be the best topic to fit the music. But when we were working on the music, the working titles were like Frodo Speaks and Gollum Speaks, without having any words related to Tolkien on it, but just the music itself already went prior to this decision into a Tolkienish direction. At least we felt it was Tolkienish. So it was a very logical decision, a very wise decision. And I have to say, back in the days, this was also where my focus was on the most.
It's a great album. I love it from the beginning to
Until
the end. It's perfect. It works all together.
I think so too.
Yeah.
We took a lot of effort in the music, but also in the narrations, in whatever was related to it. And the feeling, the mood of the album and the production back then also had that British Tolkienish feeling. So for us also, it was a natural evolution within the production, within the songwriting. Everything had that epic narrative approach, and it just got out exactly as we were intending to have it. But of course, I mean, then listening back to it after finishing it, it's also like, you know that you have accomplished something on one hand. On the other hand, you discover surprises all over the place still. I mean, it's up to the day. I get goosebumps if I listen to the album.
Yeah, there are songs that are more obvious in the meaning, like The Older. We know what the song is about, but there are another ones that are more subtle. And when we listen it with a few times, we understand, oh, that's the meaning of this song. This is not a question that was in the script, but which one is your favorite song from this album?
Well, my favorite is Time Stands Still. If I really look at it, and over all the years, that's my most favorite one. I think not only because of the story. I mean, some people complain about the Iron Hill, but other than that, it really captures the feeling, the emotion. It's the most musical one on the album in terms of having a rock heavy metal musical with characters like Morgoth really nicely showcased in there, and also with a narration part which goes along very well, with a Fingolfin being in the dilemma he is. So that all is captured very well in this song, I believe. And then we have that triumphant chorus, so that always struck me the most. It's also the one I like to perform the most on stage, because even though it's not the easiest vocal wise, it's pretty much in the region where I am capable of singing very well almost every evening, and I can do alterations there, which also fits the purpose. So that would be my first choice, and it is my first choice for a long time.
Do you still perform it in your shows? Time Stands Still.
Yeah, that's also a privilege. It's not constantly on there, but wherever we fit it in, and that's in a lot of cases, it has the impact we want it to have. There is an obligation to play Mirror Mirror. There's almost the same obligation to play Nightfall, but we're more in using Time Stands Still. So there's also a relief and a privilege for me. So, I know people will love it, but we don't have to have it in there constantly. And so I can follow my mood there more, in terms of, do I want to play it? Is that the right moment to play it? But it's always very well appreciated. But only listening back to the studio version always gives me the feeling that this is where we were the strongest. Actually, that is the song which was named Frodo Speaks before we started working on the lyrical aspects of Nightfall, Middle-earth, and that song in particular.
Oh, this one was supposed to be the Frodo Speaks? Oh.
Well, it was just a working title.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, that Time Stands Still is Frodo Speaks.
Oh, and the Gollum Speaks. Which one?
Gollum Speaks is Into the Storm. The give it
to
me, I must have it, basically shows the direction. So this is what I sang right from the beginning, and so this was Gollum Speaks.
Perfect.
Hans, how do you evaluate the legacy and importance of Nightfall for the band after 25 years of its release?
Well, first of all, we're not good with anniversaries. I have to start like this. We are missing most of them, and luckily nowadays,
be honest.
In this particular time, we have a lot of anniversaries. We just realized too late that 2023 is actually the 25th anniversary of our first Brazilian appearance, and it's also the 25th anniversary of Nightfall in Middle-earth. It is, to my personal taste, the best Bling Guardian album up to date, and I also think it's the most important one. I mean, every album is important and every album is like a child, but this, because of the topic, always felt very special to me. And it is I won't say a burden, but you know, knowing that so many people are Tolkien pundits and are very picky, you know, the whole society is very picky and very geekish. And having done an album like, you know, which most of the people who have a sense for rock music appreciate it as one of the best Tolkien related album, if not the best rock related Tolkien album, makes me very proud. So it is very important. And I believe that a lot of people, especially before Nightfall in Middle-earth, I have to say, paid attention to Blind Guardian because of the fantasy topics we've used. And that somehow kept us a bit separate from many other metal bands in the beginning. So it became a sort of trademark, and we brought that maybe to the highest level with Nightfall. So Nightfall, not only because of its 25th anniversary, but also because, you know, of my personal feeling to it, is my most important Blind Guardian album. I have the feeling many people look at it the same way. And as mentioned, we missed that 25th anniversary, but there is going to be a time when we are doing the entire album as a conceptual thing on stage. We need to put a little brain work into it. Maybe it's the 30th anniversry. I do not.
Okay, we have a question about it.
Don't play with our heart. Don't play with our hearts.
I don't want to play with your hearts. I want to play with the nerves of my bandmates, because it's not the easiest album to be performed live.
Yeah.
Some of the songs are. We tried Curse of Fëanor a couple of times, and that's a quite difficult one. Noldor is really, really difficult.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Noldor is? Yeah, Noldor is a very nice one. But we because once we recognized that it was the 25th anniversary, we started working on acoustic versions of many of the Blind Guardian songs. Our main focus is on Nightfall and Middle-earth at the moment. If we're able to finalize the whole album in such a way, then we would do an acoustic version of Nightfall and Middle-earth. If not, there will be something like a Forgotten Tales album in Blind Guardian terms in the nearer future, whatever that means, 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, I cannot tell you.
Perfect. And acoustic version of the Nightfall, because I have heard some acoustic versions. I don't remember, maybe in Spotify, I don't remember. And I thought it's like a bard, had some medieval taste. It's make complete sense. A remake of the album with cellos and violins and acoustic guitars. I don't know. I always thought that some songs are better in studio, and when you try to come out in live, don't have the response that you wanted. You need I don't know, maybe some more people in the stage to help. I don't know if it makes sense. Another backing vocals people to help you to keep the fatness of the song. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. That makes sense. Imagine playing The Elder. I don't know if you used to play that song, The Elder, with the chorus, right? It would be hard to perform, right?
You need some help in some songs to make a great presentation, because in studio you have many channels. You can record 4 guitars, 3 channels of voice. Live, you don't have it.
Yeah, that's an understatement of tracks, even for Nightfall in Middle-earth. It was far more we used, but I still personally believe that it is possible to transpose every song into a good live version. One just has to find the key, the right musical key, you know, which ingredients to use. And that is from song to song a bit more difficult, as I said, with Curse of Fëanor, which does not hold as many tracks as Nightfall, for example. It's far more difficult to transfer this into a live version. We just mentioned briefly Noldor, which is a great song, but to have that in a great live version, I agree. You either need a lot of good vocalists on stage, or you need to have a plan how to transform it so it works. And sometimes we don't have the time to really work that out in the most proper way. Saying that after 25 years tells you something, but we develop as a band. So with every new album, this obstacle is there, and then we have to decide for which songs to go. And of course, the ones which are, haven't proven worth to be performed live, they are somehow subtle and set for the next set. But in bringing in new stuff, it's always the same. It takes a lot of effort. It needs an idea, and sometimes the time is not there to do so. But for some of the songs, it would be very nice. My biggest concern in the live situation would be Dark Passage, maybe, apart from Gondor. That is holding a lot of orchestration and also a lot of choir singing, high choir singing, which makes it very difficult. So we worry when we get there, I have to say. But right now, I still think every song is possible to be accomplished live.
Now, on a more personal note, what was the first book that you read by Tolkien? How did you know that Tolkien exists?
The first book I read was The Hobbit, and I was maybe 16, 17 years old. It was recommended to me 2 years prior to it. And in Germany, the title of The Hobbit is The Little Hobbit.
Oh, so, The Little Hobbit. That's cute.
In translation, it would be The Little Hobbit. And it was a recommendation in school, so I did not follow up to it. And later on, I found the book in the bookshelf of my sister. And since I didn't have anything else to do, I started reading it without any expectations. I saw the cover.
An unexpected journey, right?
It was a very unexpected journey. Yeah, I fell in love with it. And then, it really left me speechless. And it took me another 12 months when talking to someone who was more experienced with literature in general than I was back then, until I found out that The Lord of the Rings, which I knew from the title, was related to The Hobbit. So my next adventure began after I found out. The book was hellishly expensive. It was a trilogy. It was 3 books in a paperback. It was a gift from my sister when I think 16, 17, around that again, when I got my first version of The Lord of the Rings, and I was blown away.
Yeah, you began with the beginning, right, with The Hobbit. And what about the Silmarillion?
The Silmarillion then came accidentally, I have to say, because after we did our first albums, and after I read The Lord of the Rings, I saw the Silmarillion, and I got Unfinished Tales in a German version. Unfinished Tales was the next one I read, and I didn't pay too much attention to the Silmarillion back then, but traveled to England a lot, and they have had all the Christopher Tolkien related J.R.R. Tolkien books, like The Shaping of Middle-earth, and whatever they were called, the Lost Worlds, blah blah blah. And I couldn't get them in Germany at that time, so it must be late 80s, early 90s. And I bought all the books there and got into that before I got really into the Silmarillion, before I found out that everything was somehow connected to the Silmarillion as well. And then I started reading Silmarillion, and it took a while until I realized the size of the story, because it was like, how can I say that, a chronology? It was like, more like a chronicle thing, like, you know, all these tiny little bits and pieces. Firstly, not making the biggest impact because it was just briefly defined before I really recognized what it was, and that it was just like, you know, maybe, yeah, a report of Tolkien to himself to maybe come back later to that stuff and then create giant stories. And once I realized that, I also realized, you know, how much bigger this world was than even the Lord of the Rings. Of course, in the Lord of the Rings, when related to these first ages, you get an idea that everything happened back then was more important and bigger and, you know, the larger than life thing. But in this book, I finally found it. And that was around the time when we started working on the Nightfall and Middle-earth project in 96, it was, I think.
When you were in England, what you found was the history of Middle-earth, the 12-volume collection, right? That has the shaping of Middle-earth, the Lost Road. They were released.
Right. It was,
yeah.
But it was separate books.
They're separate books, yeah.
Not,
yeah. They were released between 83 and
95, 96.
Yeah, 96, yeah.
How important was Tolkien to metal scene, especially when you started your band in the 80s? You remember another band with Tolkien subjects?
No, not so much. There was like covers been used, and of course, Cirith Ungol, for example, you know, bands used titles or names of the story, but this was nothing really being part of the attention we paid to Tolkien. It, you know, for me, most of the metal bands were, you know, in my mind, without really observing it, were related to fantasy. I thought everyone would technically do what we do, you know, in, you know, being geeks, relating songs to Stephen King or J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
I found out later on, even Fates Warning, which was one of our most iconic bands, which is still one of the most iconic bands for us, there was no relation to Tolkien, but in my mind, it was always somehow related to fantasy or to Tolkien directly. Looking back, it wasn't too many bands, if at all. There was a musician, I'm sure you've heard about him, Bo Hansson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a full album about
this was more what you know, I recognized about Tolkien and Tolkienish music, because of course I tried to find music related to Tolkien, and there was not too much. Some folkloristic stuff, Bo Hansson, which was maybe
progressive,
successful. Yeah, it's basically it's instrumental, whatever it is, jazz rock, you know, very different, but the atmospheres are sometimes really great on the album. And so this was what I recognized. I didn't even know that Led Zeppelin had phrases from The Lord of the Rings. All that stuff I recognized later on. For us, as said, it was every other band was also related to fantasy. So I thought, of course, there would be other bands dealing with Tolkien. It was not the case. We did it. And later on in the 90s, of course, band then adapted that as well. But mostly, apart from some more death and black metalish bands I know, mostly also in the way of, you know, either borrowing a name or having some subjects related to it. Of course, I would imagine there's a lot of bands which I do not know and probably who did not come to the biggest attention in terms of the audience. They deal with the same subject and maybe even better than we do. But for the metal scene, I don't think there were too many.
Yeah, maybe Nightwish had some songs with one sentence, one term. It's not really
right.
A big concern about this. Just one name on another.
Yeah, and that's fine. You know, it's in many ways it is supposed to be freestyle. Like we have sometimes songs like, in our case, we always try to relate it to the story. but you can make that very obvious, like on Nightfall in some cases, or you make it more hidden, like, you know, in lots of this, in many of the songs we've composed. Like, and then there was Silence is about the Trojan War, and if you dig into it, you will find out, and you will also find names like Cassandra, blah blah blah. But if you just listen to the song without knowing it, it would be technically just the name, and it is my reference to it which makes it so obvious. And if I took out, like, on the new album, there's a song called Damnation, which is related to Patrick Rothfuss' story of the Kinslayer. If I took out the word champion, no one would know what I'm talking about. So it's quite easy to hide that. And sometimes if you feel related to it, like in Nightwish's case, it's probably the other way around. The original inspiration may have come from the particular name or from a particular situation in a book, but you go freestyle afterwards. I go freestyle, but within the story.
What was the Tolkien fandom like in Germany before the movies, the Peter Jackson movies?
It was big. It's going in waves, I have to say. And as a geek, of course, it's omnipresent always. I'm not a geek anymore, I have to say. I'm a decent old fan. I would say, with a minimum of knowledge even about the Silmarillion, because if I do not do the researches again and again, things disappear after a while, I have to say. And there are people who are so dedicated, like you guys, who never forget, and you get deeper and deeper into it. That was not my way, and it's not the way of many consumers of Tolkien literature. It was really big in the 70s. It got a dip in the 80s, but on a very high level, I would say. And it became more popular in the 90s again. So I would say it was always big. You know, everyone liked the Bakshi movies, for example. No, that's not true. The Bakshi movies were not appreciated by everyone, but the Bakshi movie was great. It was really well done. And, you know, again, I mean, we get that
mixed feelings.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the techniques he's been using, they are really cool. I loved it. I really loved the movie. I didn't embrace it first time, but the more I thought about it and the more often I saw it, the better I felt it.
Yeah.
So I would say Germany and England were always big Tolkien and Lord of the Rings supporters.
Yeah. And so, are you a fan of the movies? Did you like the Peter Jackson movies?
I liked the Lord of the Rings movies from the beginning. I liked the Fellowship of the Rings the most. My favorite book is The Two Towers. I whatsoever dislike that movie. Disliking is a bad word.
You prefer the others.
Yeah. Peter Jackson did pay tribute to Tolkien. He paid tribute to all the books. He paid tribute to the artists who related their art, like the painters, to Tolkien, and he made spiritual profit of that. You know, he had a vision and he delivered in the vision. It covered my ideas without having ideas, without knowing I have ideas about the images in The Lord of the Rings almost to 100%. The storyboard was done in a very careful and very polite way. I think it pays also tribute to the legacy. I like the beginning of the Fellowship. Maybe that's the reason why I like the movie the most, you know, when he foretells the story. So everything he added to the story in terms of, you know, making Arwen's part bigger than it was, I could easily live with. So for me, it was a great experience. And even nowadays, I watched the movies a couple of times when they were released back in the days. I got the CDs and the Blu-rays, and I watched them a couple of times. Even nowadays, when they run on TV, I can't resist watching them. I had the same positive feeling in the beginning of when the first Hobbit part was released, but this went out of hand a bit. I felt it was acceptable because The Hobbit is more of a fairy tale. So I thought, well, you can do that. But looking at it nowadays, they have lost a bit of the sensation. I cannot say that about the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I really embraced that as I embrace most of the Star Wars movies. So that is art, cinema art in a way I appreciate. I don't have any problems with it. But again, I'm not a pundit in the natural way anymore. And I probably can absorb more than a diehard fan can.
We agree. But that's what you said. For me, the most important thing about an adaptation is that when it brings people to the fandom, and some people prefer the Lord of the Rings movies, some people prefer the Hobbit, some people love the animations from the 70s, and the last one was released in 1918, the Return of the King, right? 81, I don't know.
Yeah.
Eight.
18, yeah.
I think,
like,
I think you have to grow up with these, otherwise you cannot appreciate it.
No, it's like when I first watched them, I was like, who did this? But when you keep watching it becomes you can appreciate it. You have just to accept it, and then you appreciate it. Those songs of that return, those songs in the Return of the King movie, animated movie.
Yeah.
But
I didn't have the strength. I didn't have the strength. I really stopped watching it. I saw The Hobbit, I saw The Return of the King, and it was I couldn't stand it. But it's also, this again is also related to the music, which didn't fit at all. It was sing-along songwriter 70s stuff. I got the stuff on vinyl. I got it twice.
Oh.
Yeah, but I cannot listen to it.
You can give it to me if you want.
Because was Buena Vista Disney, and they released the book with a sing-along long plays.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Buena Vista has the rights to make the long plays, and they released a book with the pictures of the movies. Yeah. And you can sing along with the long play.
It's unbelievable. I only have the original vinyl from, I think, The Hobbit, maybe from Return of the King, I do not know. But The Hobbit I at least have it twice. Yeah. Sometimes people give things like that as a present to me, as a gift. And of course I appreciate it, but once I listened to it for the first time, I was like,
that's okay. I did it once. I'm not doing it again.
Can I finish one side? That's a question. And no, I couldn't.
No, I think that's it. Every adaptation as it's important, and that's okay.
Yeah. But this was surely done for children. I think that whoever was in charge of it really thought that to be a blockbuster, or paying tribute to people like you, but more like, how can I get the children introduced to it and entertained by it?
Yeah.
Hans, you were in Brazil last month for a few shows. How is the Brazilian audience?
Since 25 years, it belongs to the strongest in the world. Nothing has changed here. We have had some of the best shows within I think it was 7 shows. Or was it 8?
A lot. São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro.
It was 8.
It was 8. It was 8, yeah, twice in Sao Paulo, right. If I look back, I would say it's maybe in between 3 and 5 of them would be in the top 10 of this year for sure. So the impact was really strong. It's sometimes crazy to see how people, just freak, and how dedicated they are to our music. And everyone was embracing the shows, including the band. We were enjoying every moment. It was a very nice tour we played. and I cannot wait to come back.
Nice.
And you are coming to Portugal next year, so
Yeah, at least for a festival.
Yeah,
Portugal
for
is always difficult for us. I don't know why, not because of the fans, but to come over and, you know, even if we're in Spain, even if we're close to the Portugal border, we never make it to one of the bigger cities there. So I'm very grateful about that opportunity, and it's definite to happen in August.
Yeah.
It's about time.
I'll be there, so
Yeah, you better make sure to be there. It's going to be great. It's a nice run we're having of festival shows around that time. I think this is the one right after the Wacken Festival. Of course, we cannot bring the whole production, but the band itself is good enough.
I'm sure it will be great. And don't forget to play the Nolder, okay, for me.
We have done that so many times, so no problem at all. It would be the first time, and I probably can guarantee that we will break your little heart then.
Okay.
No, it's unfortunately not in the list for 2024.
So, but time stands still, it's okay. I love it.
This we can do.
We can scream together. That's
right,
great.
and I just have to keep that in mind. So yeah, but Time Stands Still is a good song for festivals as well.
Perfect. I won't forget that.
I believe we're done with the questions. We need to receive this video and start subtitles. So I believe it's gonna take some time, but we wanted to warn you when this comes out. I don't know if Marcos can do this bridge for us to warn you. The
Yes.
Brazilian. Yes,
I will.
perfect.
Yeah. I don't know
And
if
he will do it in German. Just imagine.
Yes.
That's how good he is.
I don't know if there were too many questions, but when I start searching for the script, I was like, I had like 3 or 4 questions, and I was like, oh, I'm scared that it will be a few to an interview, so I started to write down more questions.
But you've been waiting so patiently for such a long time, and I was in contact with Marcos and Leo, the girl from Nuclear Blast in Germany, and so I was prepared, you know, and I expected to be a bit longer, so no worries about that.
When I knew that we are going to interview you, I was like, I was thrilled when I knew about the interview because for me this album is an adaptation of the Silmarillion, right? It's a musical adaptation, and when I listened to it, I appreciate all your works, right? But this one is my favorite. Yeah, I think it's obvious, and I love to listen to it. It's so raw, right? It's cruel. I don't know. The first age was cruel, right? And I love to listen to it and imagine myself in Middle-earth. So like it's perfect, and I'm truly happy to be here with you and have this opportunity to speak with an idol.
Thanks a lot, and great to know.
Hans, do you have any subject you want to speak with our audience in Brazil? We have some last comments.
Yeah, thanks for attending our shows, and check out the net when we come back. We want to see you again and have as much fun as we have had last time, and all the best for 2024.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I hope to see you next year.
Peeping Christmas, Merry Christmas,
Yeah.
every Christmas.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. That's it.
Merry Christmas.